Few characters in Attack on Titan are misunderstood as often as Ymir. Ymir is a character who is constantly lying, both to other characters and the audience. Because of the act she puts on, many people misinterpret her character and the motivations behind her decisions. To make it even more confusing, much of her behavior is downright nonsensical without the context gained much later in the story. By taking a close look at Ymir, however, it becomes clear that she is one of the most kind and selfless characters in the series. To understand her actions, we first need to understand her backstory and how it shaped her personality. Ymir's childhood was spent as a nameless orphan starving in the streets of the Marley slums. One day she was taken into a cult worshipping the ancient goddess Ymir. The cult needed a figurehead, someone that they could sell to their followers as the reincarnation of the goddess. As long as Ymir maintained this lie, she no longer had to suffer. It was through this cult that Ymir gained a purpose in life. She had been cast away to starve to death in the streets. But as Ymir, she brought fulfillment to these people's lives just by lying. She felt needed and wanted by these followers who falsely believed that she was the reincarnation of their goddess. Being content with their new life and false sense of purpose, Ymir continued to live this way for several years. One day, Ymir's world would come crashing down. After the cult was caught by the Marley authorities, Ymir realized that her followers would be punished as a result of her lie. She tried to shift the blame onto herself, but it was too late. She realized that her desire to be needed had destroyed the lives of the people she wanted to be needed by. She had convinced herself that these people had needed her. She decided that this was her punishment for convincing herself of that lie. After stealing the power of the Jaw Titan, Ymir laughed at how absurd it was that she of all people had been given a second chance at life. She decided that this time she would live only for herself. But by doing this, she would once again begin to lie to herself. While sneaking around the capital, Ymir heard wall cultists talking about Historia. She realized that Historia was in the same position as how she had previously lived, a dishonest life built on lies, living only to please others. While carrying herself as a selfish person and continuing to tell herself that she would only live for herself, she joined the Cadet Corps and devoted her life to helping Historia. Inadvertently, Ymir had once again begun to lie to herself, but this time in a different sense. While before she had convinced herself that she was acting for others, now she lied to convince herself that she was acting in her own self-interests. As she had felt needed before with her followers, she wanted to be needed by Historia. Ymir and Historia were both hated by the world just for being born, but in their personalities, they were direct opposites. While Ymir was a selfless person putting on the act of a selfish one, Historia was a selfish person putting on the act of a selfless one. Understanding each other better than they understood themselves, they were each the only one to see through the other's act. Trapped in a blizzard and facing death, Ymir realized that Historia planned on committing suicide so that she could die and be remembered fondly, even though it meant killing Daz in the process. Ymir made the risky choice to use her Titan, taking away Historia's convenient excuse to die. Afterwards, they made a promise. When Ymir revealed her secret, Historia would do the same, dropping her act and living true to her nature. Determined to save Historia from herself and the hatred of the world, all of Ymir's actions from this point forward are with what's best for her in mind. Understanding Ymir's motivation, we can address one of the biggest questions many people have about Ymir, which is why she didn't help the Walls fight back against Marley. Ymir fully understood the relationship between Marley and Paradise Island. She knew that if Marley was to invade, the people of the Walls stood no chance. The invasion of Wall Maria, and the lack of a response by the king, confirmed to her that the king had lost the founding Titan. In her mind, it was only a matter of time until the people of the Walls were killed. Even if she wanted to help fight back against Marley, it wasn't plausible for her. Doing so would require cooperation with the military, and we saw how they reacted to Eren's transformation. With all of this in mind, she decided that revealing herself as a Titan was the worst possible choice for Historia. As long as her power stayed a secret, she could save Historia when the time came. While she could sympathize with them, saving the people of the Walls was not a realistic goal, nor was it her priority. Using her Titan to help the scouts wasn't part of her plan, but her hand was forced when she and Historia were stranded during the Titan invasion of Wall Rose. Only a few hours later, Reiner made the choice to try and complete their mission by retrieving both Eren and Ymir. Because of this, Ymir never had a chance to talk to the leadership of the Scout. She decided then that she would judge Eren's actions during their conversation to determine which side had a better chance of securing Historia's future. After watching Eren's meltdown, she decided that the Walls were hopeless, siding with Marley in exchange for Historia's safety. When Ymir woke up after becoming a human again, she already understood how Titan powers were transferred. She didn't know who she had eaten, but she did know how lucky she was. After realizing that Marcel was one of Reiner's companions, she understood just how much eating him had cost Reiner's group. Her actions had caused Marley to lose one of its most powerful weapons. She knew that this was a responsibility that Reiner would pay for on her behalf. Ymir was prepared to take Historia to Marley with Eren, however something unexpected happened. Ymir watched Eren use the powers of the Founding Titan to control pure Titans. Having control again over this power, Ymir knew that the walls had a future. But the wall's guaranteed future meant the opposite for the warriors. Ymir's insistence on bringing Historia with them had caused them to lose Eren. Reiner and Bertold had failed their mission. Ymir knew that they would be punished for what she had done if they returned to Marley empty-handed. She understood better than anyone else just how cruel Marley could be and what would happen to them. With Historia safe, Reiner and Bertold were now the ones in need of protection. Having been reborn again only after stealing the power of the Jaw Titan, Ymir knew that her borrowed time was at an end. Ymir made the ultimate selfless choice to entrust Historia to Eren and return what she stole. Through this final selfless choice, Ymir finally stopped lying to herself. Every part of her life had been dictated by her self-sacrificing nature. But in the end, she was honest to herself through these sacrifices.